Everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday. It's December 25th. It is 2024. We have a 5-game NBA slate to talk about here for Christmas Day. Recording, as always, night before on Tuesday night, Christmas Eve. Hope everyone is having a fantastic holiday season. Merry Christmas to everyone that is listening on Christmas or right now. What's up, Richie? What's up, Trey? Hope everyone had a fantastic day. Solo pod today, and for anyone that's not tuning in to YouTube right now, going to do a free preview of Lineup HQ on today's podcast. I always mess around with Plate IQ when we were talking about baseball season when I did these solo podcasts. So I was like, hey, it's Christmas. Let's look at the Lineup HQ and give a little free preview for Lineup HQ for everybody. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page so you can come hang out with us live when we're doing these shows. 5-game slate, very interesting NBA slate. I mean, it's Christmas Day slate. You get, some really good basketball games typically, and I think that all 5 of these games are really solid as well. And yeah, overall, I think it's going to be a good slate. I think Christmas night is going to finish with a banger here, with Denver and Phoenix with that high total game. A lot to talk about in that game, and we'll get there. We will. Merry Christmas to you too, RC player. Hopefully everyone has a fantastic Christmas. So let's talk some hoops. We get started with San Antonio at New York Knicks. 23.5 total in this game. Knicks a 9-point favorite. Nobody on the injury report for San Antonio, but we have Mitch Robb still out for the Knicks. So we'll start here with San Antonio. So this is, we talk a lot about process, and this is what I typically will do in the morning. So looking like a first look podcast, like I'll look at all the stats and I'll look at matchups and stuff, and I'll talk about injuries and who could potentially be affected and stuff. But like when I usually get up in the morning and I start my NBA like premium stuff for the day, I typically will start by using Lineup HQ, kind of seeing, hey, who's projected for a lot, who's not projected for a lot, kind of stuff. Who am I going to potentially take advantage of? And as you can see, projections up top were updated around 10 o'clock Eastern. So these projections are going to change a lot throughout the day. So you're getting a first look at the projections as well. So take that for what it's worth. Let's start here with San Antonio. Obviously, I think Wemby playing his first Christmas Day game is someone that has a lot of ceiling here. I made him the cover photo of the podcast today because I love this projected ownership for him. I think the projected ownership is really solid here at 1.29%. If we go over, we're seeing the fact that like he has a high smash rating, his ceiling is really high. He's going to have one of the highest ceilings on the slate. So always love looking at that kind of ceiling stuff. Outside of him, projections wise, there's not a ton of projected value here for this team. If we're looking at the RG value tab, which is over under the RotoGrinders implied value threshold, Vassell, I have him tagged. So I'm on Lineup HQ, and I did this about an hour and a half ago. And I have him tagged. I like his price a lot. I think that he's someone that has a lot of upside here. If we look at recently when he's played over 30 minutes, he scored at least 25 fantasy points in 3 straight when playing 30 plus minutes. It's just minutes thing for him, and I think this is a game that he gets minutes. I think 4,900 is one of the cheapest price tags we've had on him all season. I think it's the cheapest he's been on DraftKings all year, if I remember correctly when I was looking it up. So I like Vassell. I like Wemby. I don't like playing a ton of Spurs. I also don't necessarily love the pace projected of this game. So Merry Christmas to you, Dave, as well. Wemby, Vassell, my main targets here. I think large field tournament wise, you could potentially take some shots on Champagne. I know I talked about him the other day for large field tournaments, and he had 29 fantasy points. He had a really good rebounding day. I think he had like 4 or 5 threes as well. So like the potential upside there for low ownership and low price tag. Going to the New York side of things, I mean, Cat is he's having an incredible season. We look at his game log here, it's really solid. But the thing that I like that we're seeing from Cat is this usage, 20, 27, 26, 21, 26, 25, 27, 25.7. So, I mean, the usage is just fantastic for Cat. We know that, he definitely has the usage. I think you're not playing Cat and Brunson together a lot here. So I think like you're going to play one or the other. But the thing that we always like here for the Knicks is, I mean, look at the projected minutes for these guys. OG 36, Bridges 37, Hart 35, Jalen Brunson 35, Cat 34. I mean, you're playing the Knicks because they're going to play really solid minutes. So I think that is, why you're targeting the Knicks on any given slate. And I think that on a Christmas Day slate like this, you have a lot of interest in, just getting the minute floor for these guys. So, Cat would be my favorite, but I mean, I think that OG, Bridges, and Hart, if you end up in that like price range, I mean, you love the minutes they play. I don't think I want to play any bench guys. McBride would be the guy that I'd play off the bench here, projected for 25 minutes. I mean, that's really kind of in line with what we've seen here recently. He's another guy, like his usage is just not very high, so he has to shoot very efficient for him to hit his fantasy threshold. So, Cat, and then any of the three like mid-range guys that like you land on. Poker MJ, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Nick D as well, Merry Christmas. All right, moving on to the next game. We got Minnesota at Dallas. 221 total in this game. Ingles out for Minnesota. Exum and Williams out for Dallas, and Hardy questionable. So we'll start here with Minnesota. I mean, my initial thought on this team is Gobert is in a great spot against Dallas. We've been targeting centers against Dallas, I feel like all season. I know I've talked about it a lot this year. They're top 10 in fantasy points allowed to opposing centers. So I like the matchup for him. It's just the production is kind of all over the place. He really doesn't have that huge ceiling anymore. I mean, he's another guy you can look at the usage 10, 14, 5, 15, 11, 8. That's just not going to get the job done without being like very efficient on the boards and, getting those easy putbacks. But I mean, look at the last 5 games for him: 4, 8, 1, 11, 8 shot attempts. Yeah, could he have a good game here? Sure. Is he my favorite play? No. I like McDaniels. McDaniels got in, I think it was foul trouble the other night, right? I'm pretty sure McDaniels got into foul trouble. Lost some minutes in that game because of getting in foul trouble against Atlanta. I'm okay with going back to the well, McDaniels. I think Alexander Walker kind of benefited from McDaniels getting into foul trouble. Alexander Walker was playing really solid, and, he kind of took advantage of the fact that, like, he got some extra run, and McDaniels lost some minutes to him in the end. So I like McDaniels' price point. I love taking shots on Naz Reid in tournaments. Again, I mean, big men have done really well against this team, and Naz definitely is a guy that, is going to hustle and, get your shot attempts. We talked about, like, the usage for Gobert. It's the exact opposite with Naz Reid: 28, 24, 23, 15, 22, 27 and a half. So Naz Reid, I think, is a great tournament play today. Mike Conley doesn't project bad value-wise. Randall doesn't project bad. Edwards, I feel like I'm going to get to other people today. I mean, I do think the stars show up on these Christmas Day slates, so I think he's going to get a lot of shot up today. But I think overall, it's probably going to be Naz Reid and McDaniels for me on this Minnesota team. On the Dallas side, obviously, like, Luka's probable. He's not even questionable to play in this game. He returned the other night and played 30 minutes against Portland. I think he would have played more. They kind of blew Portland out in that game. So anytime that Luka's back, Kyrie just takes a huge hit for me. There's not a lot that I like here on Dallas outside of Luka. Just paying up for Luka to get him. I mean, he's always a high ceiling guy. He's always a guy that could go for a ton of fantasy points. Outside of him, I mean, the minutes are, again, just kind of all over the place for everybody else. I know we're projecting PJ Washington for decent minutes. I don't necessarily hate or love that at his price point. I think this is a game that you could see Clay on this Christmas Day slate, maybe get up a couple extra shots. His fantasy production has been okay. He's hit at least 3-pointers in 5 of his last 6 games. So I don't mind potentially taking a few shots on Clay. But he's another guy that really just has to kind of score. And I mean, I promise you, we're going to talk about some players in these later games that definitely matter. Philadelphia at Boston. We got a 221.5 total here. Boston an 8.5-point favorite. Drummond's questionable. Martin and McCain are out for Philadelphia. And then on the Boston side, Drew, Tatum, and White, all questionable. Obviously, not what you want to see if you are going to be with family. This is right around where I'm going to be with family and have to sneak and make some adjustments. Definitely only going to put one lineup on this slate like I typically do anyway. So we'll talk about that Boston situation in a minute, but let's go here to Philadelphia. Embiid got ejected the other night, only played 14 minutes. Kind of technical, and then started yelling at the referee. So it was in the second quarter. I'm pretty sure he got ejected in. So definitely can see Embiid bounce back in this game. I think if this game is competitive, it's going to be Embiid or Maxey kind of having a big game here. Paul George, just kind of a role player in this offense right now. We look at the usage. I mean, Maxey is still getting a ton of usage, even with Embiid on the floor. And then Embiid takes up a lot of usage as well. So we're just not getting a ton of usage elsewhere. I mean, look at the usage for Embiid. It's great. 35, 46, 28, 47. And then we're just not seeing the usage we need from Paul George. We need this to be 28 plus, and we're just not seeing those 28 plus games. I mean, look, the game that he had 26% usage, he put up 58 fantasy points. So looking at this Philadelphia team, I think you're paying up for Embiid or Maxey if you want to be different than paying up for Jokic and Durant in those late games. But value-wise, I mean, I don't necessarily hate Caleb Martin here. He should draw a start. We haven't projected a start. That's what the darker brown is. So we haven't projected a start here. We haven't projected for 31 minutes. I mean, at this price point, 20 fantasy points won't kill you if he can hit an extra couple shots. I don't think he's the craziest play here at 3.8K. On the Boston side, I mean, it all just kind of depends. I mean, when we're looking at questionable tags here for Tatum, White, and Drew, I mean, you hate to see this because, I mean, this is just one that is impossible to talk about here. Who do we like? I mean, if everybody plays, I have less interest in Boston. I mean, I think you could always play Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum plays. It was an illness for Tatum. I assume he's back and he plays in this game. He got scratched on Monday, but Derek White is dealing with a hamstring injury and Drew is dealing with a shoulder injury. So I think those guys are definitely on the questionable side. If one or both of White and Drew sit, bump up Pritchard a lot in this game. He would quickly become one of the best plays on the slate, not just one of the best point per dollar plays. So a lot of interest in Pritchard if either one of those guys sit. I have some interest in Porzingis in this matchup. I think Porzingis is really interesting. And then if Tatum sits, definitely take some shots on Jaylen Brown. If everybody plays, like I said, not a ton of interest. I think I would still maybe take a few tournament shots on a guy like Pritchard. Al Horford's really cheap. I don't hate the price point, but I mean, the minutes, he's just not playing as much with Porzingis back. So I don't like Horford as much with Porzingis in the lineup. Lakers at Golden State taking on the Warriors. 223.5 total here. I mean, this is just a mess for this Christmas Day slate. Not what we want to see here. AD and LeBron both questionable. Russell questionable. Hayes, Vanderbilt, Wood still out. And then Gary Payton is questionable for Golden State. So, I mean, looking at the Lakers, impossible to talk about the situation here night before. I mean, if Anthony Davis and LeBron both play, I could see taking shots on Anthony Davis. Again, he's another guy we're potentially paying up for on this slate. I don't necessarily hate the idea of getting some LeBron. I like Reeves. I think Reeves is very fairly priced on this slate, so he's someone that I definitely don't mind. And he gets a huge bump if any of the three guys sit. His usage goes up. If any of the three guys sit, I think Hachimura is someone you could take some shots on. And then if anybody's out and Dalton Connect gets a start, he's always the guy that is going to go out there and shoot. So I always like playing some Dalton Connect. But just one of those situations you're going to have to watch the news. And luckily, I mean, with each game kind of spread out, you'll be able to make adjustments, but you're taking some shots and some chances here, depending on who's in and who's out for those early games. Do I play a guy that I think is questionable? I mean, a lot of strategy and a lot of stuff that could potentially change the slate. On the Golden State side of things, I mean, I want to play Steph, but he's so expensive. The minutes are so spread out for this team that it's really hard to trust anybody. I love the fact that they're giving Schroeder minutes already. He's really cheap, but look at this usage. It's just, I mean, he went from having a really high usage with Brooklyn to the usage. Definitely something I'm concerned about with Dennis Schroeder moving forward. So I don't know if I mean, I think this is a potential shot in a tournament that you could take some shots on him. Sure. If Anthony Davis plays, I think you could take some shots on Jackson Davis, just because I think he'd have to play minutes. But they do give Looney minutes every once in a while too. But Jackson Davis, he showed some upside here recently, so I don't mind taking some shots on him. Just the minutes are very spread out for Golden State. So on a 5-game slate with only 10 teams, they're a tough team to be like, I love these guys. So Denver at Phoenix, this is the game. This is the game everybody has circled. We'll all be back from hanging out with family and doing the Christmas Day stuff. We're going to come home. We're going to watch this Denver-Phoenix game. It's going to be a fantastic basketball game. It has all the goodness. 233.5 total. Denver, a 2.5-point favorite. Holmes out. Murray questionable for Denver. Allen and Booker out for Phoenix. Jokic, I mean, he is the top play on the slate. You can see he has the rainbow we call lineup HQ when everybody has a tag. It's the rainbow. Great spot for him. If Murray's out, I'll play Westbrook. I'll also take some shots on like Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon if Murray ends up sitting. But if Murray plays, it's probably just Jokic for me. I feel like this is a game where you're kind of paying up on the Denver side and you're going to find some value on the other side of this game. I do like wings against Phoenix. I just don't know if I trust like Aaron Gordon or Porter to kind of be those guys that we need them to be. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. did have 38 fantasy points against this team earlier this season. So, I mean, there is some upside there. And Jokic did play in that game. So, I think it'd be Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic if Murray plays. But if Murray sits, it's definitely Westbrook, Porter Jr. and Jokic. But love Jokic in this spot. As far as value, I think Braun is okay as a potential value play at 5K. He's getting really solid minutes, over 24 minutes now, I think in like 10 straight games. And I mean, he is definitely somebody that I think will have some shot attempts. If he can hit some threes, make some of these easier baskets, pick up 4 or 5 rebounds and 4 or 5 assists, he could have one of those really solid games. So I think at 5K on DraftKings, Christian Braun definitely in play as well. The Phoenix side of this game, I mean, this is the spot that I probably like the most on this slate. No Booker, no Allen. Kevin Durant should get a ton of shots, should have the ball in his hands a lot in this game. Bradley Beal is another one. But like Tyus Jones is someone I like. Royce O'Neal is someone I like. Ryan Dunn is someone I think gets some really solid minutes in this game as well. So don't mind getting like Dunn. But Tyus Jones, Royce O'Neal, I prefer Tyus Jones over Royce O'Neal. I think Tyus Jones is a really solid value play on this slate. It's not like Denver's played great defense this year, and with Allen and Booker off the floor, we're gonna get a lot of production potential here for this team. So really like this team. I definitely, like I said, I have Durant tagged. I like this spot a lot for him. If we take Grayson Allen and Devin Booker off the court this year, looking at NBA, looking at court IQ. I have my screen so blowed up for lineup HQ that like it's messing with me. But I mean, the biggest bumps here, Kevin Durant, 4.6% usage increase, averaging 1.38 fantasy points per minute. So Tyus Jones around 0.8, Bradley Beal around 0.95, Nurkic around 0.93. So a lot of potential here. I don't know if they'd give like Monte Morris run. We're not projecting him to get a ton of run here. We're definitely projecting Tyus Jones to kind of be that guy. So really like Durant. Don't mind Nurkic, Tyus Jones, and then, like I said, in large field tournaments, I'm going to take some shots on Ryan Dunn. We don't have a ton of value on the slate for like a 5-game slate. I mean, if we were looking at everything here, our point per dollar value, Vassell, Alexander Walker, Jackson Davis, McDaniels. I mean, I do like some of those guys for sure. So, all right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we'll get out of here. Let everyone enjoy some Christmas. Appreciate everyone hanging out. I always love doing these Christmas Day shows. I think this is the 9th year that I've done a Christmas Day show, I'm pretty sure. So always appreciate everyone hanging out and enjoying some Christmas stuff here for the morning grind. Favorite play under 5K to go 7X. I mean, I think there's a few options for sure. I'm going to go to my boy Naz Reid at 4,400. I love his ceiling. He's someone that I definitely want to get some exposure to. Love the fact that he's power forward center eligible. But again, I really like Naz Reid today. He's someone that I'll end up playing in my solo lineup. Over 8K to go under 5X, my bust today. I think there's a lot of really good plays today. I keep going back to Anthony Edwards. He really just hasn't had like a stellar game here recently. Against Golden State on the 6th was the last time he went over 50 fantasy points, and he's only gone over 50 fantasy points twice in the last 10 games. Once in the last 10 games. So the production for Anthony Edwards hasn't been the best. He did earlier this season put up 52 fantasy points against this team, but I mean, if we look at the last 5 games for him, he's averaging 35, 36 fantasy points. So I'm going to go to Edwards today. Favorite 6X play. I mean, Jokic is up there, right? Like I have a ton of interest in Jokic. I talked about it. I think this is a great spot. So, I mean, Jokic, I mean, he's just the guy I want to play today. Favorite GPP ceiling play. I mean, if I'm not going to say Jokic, I do think Jokic is one of those guys. Love the usage we're getting from Embiid right now. I mean, if we're looking at like who could break a slate, Embiid is always someone that could break a slate. He really hasn't had like that slate breaking game this year. I mean, he had a 60 fantasy point game the other night against Charlotte. He took 24 shots. Like we looked at it. We looked at the usage. It's great. Don't think anyone is going to be playing Embiid today. So I like the idea of being different, and I think that he has the ceiling to break the slate. Let's get weird GPP play. I mean, that easily could have been Embiid. I am, again, looking at the matchups today. I really like Michael Porter Jr. today. I like that game as a whole. I mean, if you just kind of have a guy that maybe doesn't perform well in the early games and you want to get different, maybe Michael Porter Jr. is the answer. And you can finish your Christmas out with Michael Porter Jr., hopefully having a good game. So Michael Porter Jr. is someone that I really like for tournaments today. So he's my Let's Get Weird GPP play. That's going to wrap it up for our Christmas Day breakdown. I'm pretty sure we're going to take Christmas Day off for the NFL podcast. We'll probably record sometime Thursday for the NFL show, and then we'll be back Thursday night for Friday's NBA slate. So Hope everyone has a fantastic Christmas. Merry Christmas. Thanks for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. That could be your Christmas present to me. Appreciate everyone. We'll see you again on Thursday.